Welcome to the Master Builders Show, sponsored today by the First National Bank of Weatherford. I am your host, Jim Gibson, president of Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, a registered builder in the state of Texas, a graduate master builder certified by the National Association of Home Builders, current member of the National Green Building Council, Texas Association of Home Builders, the National Association of Home Builders, Greater Fort Worth Builders Association, and the past president of Parker County. I'm still on the board at Parker County, and also I was just elected to the board of East Parker County Chamber of Commerce. My best what is? Yes. Builder. Today,
I wasn't even thinking of that one.
Today's topic is going to be how do you get the money to build your new home? And that comes in with the appraisers. My guests today are Mike Milner of Mike Milner Real Estate Services, certified real estate appraiser, Texas property tax arbitrator, real estate broker, and I also have Gene Gibson here, and I've got a couple other guests. How are y'all today?
Doing good, Jim.
All right.
Well, how about letting them introduce themselves?
Yeah, go ahead and introduce yourself.
Everybody will recognize you.
I know it's Mr. Campbell.
That's right, Leon Campbell with Native Shade Tree Farm.
All right.
And then the boss is with you.
That's right,
support.
but I don't think her mic or headset is working. So, anyway, the real boss of the operation is here on my left. That's my wife, Joan Campbell, who is the owner of the company.
Very good.
And
Welcome.
I'm the general manager.
All right.
Good.
Well, so like I said, we got Mike Milner here. How are you doing this morning, Mike?
Fine, thank you very much. Glad to be here. Thank you for having me.
The show is designed to educate and answer any questions of any listeners on residential design, construction, or anything dealing with building, remodeling, repairing, or maintaining a home in the state of Texas. So if you've got any questions, please give us a call at 877-341-8950. That's 877-341-8950. And if you've got any questions concerning a builder or checking out a builder, you can go to my website at www.masterbuildershow.com. And it'll, on the left-hand side there, it'll have a little column with TRCC, which stands for the Texas Residential Construction Commission. You can click on that and go in and check out your builder and make sure he's registered. If he's not registered, don't hire him.
And they can send you emails.
Oh, yeah.
If somebody's got a question, a concern, a topic they'd like covered, they can email you at Jim, J-I-M, at GibsonHomebuilders.com, which is one word.
Well, they can also email me at Jim at masterbuildershow.com.
That's true, too.
That's the way I track it here, so that's the one I prefer is
okay.
Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Anyway, Leon, what do you got to say this morning? I know you brought some materials that you want to cover.
Well, I'm just going to kind of ride along here and see which way all this goes with the appraisal and the money. I've got a lot of things I could talk about the advantages of having some nice trees around your house as far as reducing your electric bills, reducing your psychological stress, just many things that I can chime in with whenever we're ready.
Whenever we get that point. Okay.
Yeah.
Gene, you wanted to have a little talk session here this morning about it.
Well, I don't know with all our guests if we really want to get into that, but I was going to ask that for each show, I'm going to put the burden on you, that each show we get an energy tip. And I know you had a show on insulate your house, but maybe there are other things that don't cost any money that would...
Everything costs money.
But that would... well, like our son who shut off all the vents for the upstairs for his house.
And cost him more?
Yes, his power bill went through the roof because...
Well, it was a split system, so he was having one system carry the entire house.
Mm-hmm.
And when he, thinking that he was shutting off, half of his system, well, he was, but he was shutting off the other half that was a totally separate system. And so you just don't go in and arbitrarily shut down vents, and they cause moisture problems and other things up there also if you shut them off, condensation forms around the ducts. So anyhow, what else do you want to discuss?
Well, and there are authors. I'm a bit of a reader. And this book just made sense to me because of today's guest, Mike. Mm-hmm. Sarah Shashanka's book, The Not So Big House.
Yes, ma'am. Okay.
Wonderful, wonderful book. I like her premise. Her ideas of flow, utilization of space.
Okay, all right.
And that square foot housing is not always the wisest way to go.
Right. Okay.
So I would like to recommend that to anybody who's thinking about building a house, that they can go to Sarah Shashanka, Susanka. She has a website. And you can go to her website. You can get her books in the library. The Not So Big House.
Her Not So Big House is really about 2,500 square foot. But what she's doing is she says design each home or each room for its specific use, and then put it together and get your flow down. And you don't have to have an 18,000 square foot house with 19 bedrooms and 19 baths and all that stuff to be comfortable. And if you've got that, it's not going to be cost effective anyway. Anyway, Mike, why do we need an appraiser?
Why do we need an appraiser? Well, one thing, the major thing, is to just make sure that investor's collateral is collateralized. We want to make sure that it's an arm's length transaction. We want to make sure that it's an arm's length transaction, that we don't have a seller or a buyer to a seller. There's something a little bit under the table. We want to secure the loan for what is the real value of it, not what the homeowner thinks it is. And we want an unbiased opinion from an appraiser that his client typically will be the lender. We don't want homes coming back on us, and I've had a lot of appraisers that have come in, and they have been sued by the lender because they did not know how to measure the house according to ANSI, and that's American National Standards Institute. They'll give credit for valuations for people with drop-down stairs in the attic. That's not true living area. They'll have a main house at 5,000 square feet. They'll go through a porte-cochere, and they'll have another 1,500 square feet over here. They'll add it into the gross living area, which is totally wrong according to ANSI, the American Standards Institute. So we want to be sure that it's a check and balance, that what is there is what is there, and how can we give that value and support it, that the lender is comfortable with what we're doing, and the lender is our client.
What are the appraiser's qualifications? What do you have to do to be a qualified or a certified appraiser here in Texas?
To do and be an appraiser, number one, you have to start out as a trainee. You have to be sponsored by a certified appraiser. And this takes from 2 to 5 years. The certified appraiser will take a minimum of 3 trainees under his wing. And it used to be, I had 23 appraisers I trained at one time, almost 30. So they eliminated that because we had people in Waco, Texas, that had people in ABC, Texas, and they never went out on the job and supervised them. So consequently, we had people doing appraisals that did not know what they were doing. The supervision, the certified appraiser, was not administering them like Trella intended for them to do. So we just have to be sure that we're getting trainees that know what they're doing and that they're completely supervised by that appraiser who is certified, and he has to check the work, period. Everything he does, the field work, he cannot let him go in the field, can't let him come back into the office without going over every aspect on the URAR, the 1004, the 2055, the 2065, the 2075.
What are all those numbers?
What are all these numbers?
Certain forms.
Right. Oh, they're all forms.
I'm sorry. These are Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae, Freddie Mac, FHA, VAs. You just can't train someone that just say, hey, go get it. A long time ago, as a real estate broker, we'd have an agent come in and say, hey, Tiger, go get it. Bring in a solicitor. You cannot do that anymore.
All right. Looks like we've got to come up on a break here. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
YourCircleOfWealth.com. A recent study by one of the world's largest financial institutions estimates that over 90% of baby boomers will not retire financially independent. We have prepared a financial report entitled Your Circle of Wealth. Learn how changing the way you manage your money can dramatically increase your wealth. To get a copy, you may go to www.yourcircleofwealth.com and enter the passcode Gibson, Gibson. That's YourCircleOfWealth.com.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I'm your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Texas. My guest today is Mike Milner with Mike Milner. You've got a long title here. Mike Milner Real Estate Services. I've also got Leon Campbell of the Native Shade Tree Farm. I got that right.
That's right.
And Joan, his wife, is here. And I've got my wife here, Jean Gibson. Anyway, we were talking about appraisals today. Appraisals, that's what we were talking about. So,
and trees.
And we're going to talk about some trees and what trees do to add to the value of appraisal. Mike, you got any say on what? I guess it's if you're buying a home in a subdivision or a tract, trees count quite a bit, don't they?
Yes, sir, they do. Absolutely.
All right. The value placed on them is what, by size?
Well, I think it's overall it's by size. There's definitely measurements out of Texas A&M. How do you derive a value of a tree? With the trunk, with the canopy, the type of tree it is it long-term tree? Is it a long-term tree? And you can correct me on this because I know that's your forte. The thing is that I'm looking for as an appraiser, am I looking at a bald piece of land as compared to, and I do everything you do in life is bought by one thing, and that's comparison. If you go buy a pair of shoes, you're going to buy them by comparison. If you can find this brand at $2 and the same brand for $50, there's no difference. Well, guess what you're going to buy? Well, we're going to compare and do what we call pairings. We're going to try to do the best pairings we can on a paired sale, what we call a paired sales analysis. How much more is a corner lot getting than an interior lot, if that's the case? How much more is mature trees getting more than a bald piece of property? And the majority of people in subdivisions, not necessarily rural, that's a different ballgame, but usually the more trees, the better the value, the higher the value, and that's usually reflected by the ultimate asking price by the buyer.
Can you put a hard number to a tree?
It's hard to do. You can do it. There's a formula put out by Texas A&M, and you can do it. You can measure it and caliper it, and you jump in and correct me if I'm wrong.
Oh, no, you're done fine. There is an arborist can also assist with that on a fee basis. I know of a couple here in Parker County that can assign a value to a tree. Say you have a home, you've had it 10 years, you built it there because of one particular tree. It's a 200-year-old live oak, gets hit by lightning. Well, now you've lost a lot of value to your land. And, well, how do you put a number on that? You go to your insurance company and you want to be compensated for your loss, but somebody has to figure out how much that tree is worth. And an arborist can do that. And when it comes to the value of property, and study after study, and I've researched this quite a bit, it'll add anywhere from 10 to 25% to the value of your property to have either a nice stand of native trees or trees that you have planted yourself. And aside from the obvious advantages there when it comes to sale or resale of property, there are numerous studies that will verify that you can save a lot of money on your electric bills by having trees that shade your home in the summer. And if these are deciduous trees, which means those that drop their leaves, then those same trees that shade your house in the summer and save you on air conditioning will drop their leaves in the winter and provide heat. So there are some significant benefits to having trees around your home.
Yeah, we try to usually design all our homes with north facing primarily, but on that western side we either don't put windows in or look at the lay of the land, and if it's got trees there, then we can put some windows in there normally because they won't allow that western sun in. That's what kills us. How long does it take to normally make an appraisal?
It depends if it's a short form, what we call a 2055 or a 2065. There's just not as much to it. I don't know if you want I'll give you cursory or compendium, but a 2055, all we do is drive out, shoot a picture of the front, shoot a street scene, shoot 3 comps. Okay, a 1004, a full form, we're going to spend from 15 to sometimes lenders require and mandate an hour on the property, especially on relocation appraisals. They require you to be there an hour because obviously the homeowner knows more about your property than you can come in within 15, 20 minutes and try to glean everything that's there. What we always ask for is a brag sheet, if you will. I want that owner to provide me with so many things. Tell me what made you buy it. Tell me anything, improvements you've done. Tell me what the cost was and the date that it was done. And that will help expedite. They may not be getting dollar for it back, but it'll certainly get what we call contributory back. But I may have missed some things. I did one yesterday, and the guy's walking out the door, and he says, by the way, I have an in-ground safe. So typically speaking, it takes us 15 to 30 minutes on the on-site measurement. We have to do that unless there's what we call extraordinary assumptions, and then we don't have to.
Well, there's certain things that you normally look for. I mean, you've got all your basic items you're looking for, your flooring, your cabinetry, your countertops, and all that stuff. How do you place a value on it? Is there a certain equation that you use as to how much cabinetry they have, types of cabinetry,
There's various costs. One of the ways, if the cost dictates it, is the cost program. And we use a national cost system, which is called Marshall & Swift. They are the most predominantly accepted cost system. But that's no good unless we bring it into local construction costs, just like one of your homes.
Right.
If I tell you the national program to build a 2,000 square foot framing is X number of dollars a square foot, and you say, oh, no, I can build it for half of that, I'm going to use yours. But that sets the upper limit, and usually it's union scale. But we bring it down to local construction cost, and that's on a cost basis.
Okay. But do you actually go in and measure the footage? Like, when I'm putting in cabinets, say, and it depends on the type of wood, but generally we take a linear foot, and so much per linear foot, and that's for lowers and uppers. Y'all go by that same approach, or
yes, sir. What I look for whenever I get a builder's plans and material list, most people call them spec sheets. What I look for is if you can provide it to me as hard cost.
Right.
Now, I want to know what your hard cost is, and that will also include soft cost. And we want to look at that, and if that's supportive in the market, that's going to set the upper limit. And very soon, through occasional, sometimes like over in Capel, properties that's over 10,000, say, whatever per square foot, the demand was so high that people actually paid over what it was costing because they wanted that location. But there's so many variables there, Jim, that we want to look at each in every situation. I prefer a hard cost from you, and that way that brings in the local construction cost, and that's what I'm going to hang my hat on over and above. And we're not going to go to the low end of the market. We're going to go to the high end of the market and support.
All right, we've got to take another break. We'll be back in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
YourCircleOfWealth.com. A recent study by one of the world's largest financial institutions estimates that over 90% of baby boomers will not retire financially independent. We have prepared a financial report entitled Your Circle of Wealth. Learn how changing the way you manage your money can dramatically increase your wealth. To get a copy, you may go to www.yourcircleofwealth.com and enter the passcode Gibson, Gibson. That's yourcircleofwealth.com.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties with a selection of interior and exterior lighting fixtures. They also have ceiling fans, mirrors, and vanities in all sizes. A lighting consultant will help you with your decisions. For an appointment with a Fort Worth lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guest today is Mike Milner, Leon Campbell, Joan Campbell, my wife, Jean Gibson. We're talking about appraising homes, and I guess we had a caller call in, and they were wanting to know how much weight was put on air conditioning and heating systems. And I suppose they were talking about SEER ratings and energy efficiency. So how much weight is put on them?
Well, first of all, it depends upon the SEER. If someone's putting in the minimum of 13, then what we do is look at the hard cost by the builder. 13 is the minimum SEER, as you know, for building right now. We also have up to 23 SEER. We have 19 SEER. We have 16 SEER. So we're going to look at the hard cost based upon you as the builder and say, okay, this 23 SEER is going to cost me $15,000.
Right.
I can put in a 13 SEER for 18, and then we're going to have a heat loss gain. We're going to have a look at the whole gamut and say, what is this really worth? What's the contributory value to a 1,500 square foot home? And if it's an overkill, and as you know, you can put too much central heat in a system and you have problems. It needs to be engineered correctly with heat loss gain.
Okay, you're talking about tonnage, and SEER is seasonal energy efficiency rating.
Right.
When you're going tonnage, you don't want to overkill on that. I mean,
exactly.
You don't want to be like
right.
Two-man Tim and say, I want a 5-ton
more
unit.
power.
It requires a 2-ton unit. But actually, we're not getting actually cost on that. If like I said, I put in the minimum at 13 SEER, and then the customer decides he wants a 19 SEER, and it costs X amount of dollars to put in that 19 SEER.
Right.
Is he going to be able to finance it, or is he going to come out on the appraisal?
He can finance it, but what he has to realize, it's going to cost him more upfront money,
right?
But he will recoup that.
Well, that's what we always tell him.
It's going to take him a while, and if he's smart, in my opinion, I would go with a little bit higher because, one, he'll immediately feel the effect of cost per savings a month, okay? And eventually, when he goes to resell this property, he doesn't say, I've got the minimum 13. And as you know, if 13 or less breaks down, they've got to replace it with a 13 unless they have parts.
Right.
So it's a great marketing tool. If they can work it out with a HVAC system, I think it's worth it if they can work it out with someone to get the higher SEER. And
what about, we were talking about cabinetry and stuff like that. On say flooring, is there emphasis placed on like type of tile? I mean, you can go in with there's a regular ceramic tile. It starts at about
or even painted floors that I like.
Yeah. How much weight is given on floors, and how much leeway do you have in, say, I want to bring in, and the customer wants porcelain imported from Italy.
Well,
or even a subtle difference.
A lot of difference.
Right.
I've done homes with $400 a square foot carpet, and this is years ago. Okay. So I'm sorry. I think it depends if you've got if you go in, if you put in a minimum tile in, or if you put travertine, or if you put something that's higher end, then what we have to do is look at the cost. Then we want to compare it with the most like kind cell that we have and say, what do they have? And usually I can find that out. If we have a quality adjustment, we want to give you as the builder everything that you're not in it for free.
Right.
And if it costs you $100,000 to build this house and I come in at 90, you're out of business on that particular job.
Right.
So we want to analyze. The more a builder can give me, I get specs, material list, on napkins. And I have no idea if they've got 2x2s for walls, 2x4s. I had a gal yesterday said, Mike, I've got 2x10 walls in here. And so I need all the help I can get.
Right.
So, excuse me, but am I understanding you to say that the expertise on the materials is dependent on the builder and the homeowner, not on you?
Yes, ma'am.
If I tell you this is a $100 a tile.
Right.
Okay.
Tell me. Because if you don't, I have so many generic specs that I promise you, I call the builder and some high-end builders, and I won't mention their name, but they just say, well, it's going to have this and it's going to have this. That doesn't mean anything to me. I need to know specifics. Tell me, are you putting in an injection system on the septic? Are you putting in an aerobic? Are you putting in conventional? I need to know those things. How many feet are you going deep on your well? Are you going to the aquifer of Trinity or the Paluxy? What's happening in this area? I need to know all that. What kind of roofing are you having? And give me all you have, and I promise you, we will make it work, because what I'm comparing it to may be 50% of what you're doing.
But what about decorative items? That's what people don't see. Jim's heavy insulation in the walls and the whatever he puts in the attic. But the trend is painting floors now and coordinating the walls to the floors. I like Formica instead of granite or so many of these new products out there. Right. So I consider those decorative items.
Right.
So how do you evaluate those components?
We're going to judge it on quality. We're going to go to a quality situation. How much is the granite costing? How much is this costing? And then we're going to do some sort of a formula, and it's costing the builder less to build it. And we're going to come out with some sort of formula to come in with the difference in that. But, so many of the builders nowadays, just like I know Jim is building some energy-efficient things that some of the other people may not have. And some of them are putting minimal, and they're even, let's say, minimal R factors. And they're putting in just some of the items that, are 20 years ago, and they're trying to camouflage it with different things. And I think if you come in and you really give green products and trying to make it more green and appropriate to people, you don't have to put in the high dollar windows or anything. There's equal ones.
Right.
But we want to give the builder everything that's coming to him. We just want to know what he's doing.
So what builders need to do is actually just sit down and give you a total list of everything that they've put in this house that's over and above what would be considered the norm.
What I tell, and I've trained over 30-plus appraisers. I've had them for a long time. And I just say, look, just tell me the story. They go out and say, Mike, I can't make this work. Did you talk to the builder? Did you get him to tell you the story? Well, golly gee, don't you know that I'm doing this or I'm doing that? We really don't know unless it's in the materials list, i.e. specs. And tell me what's in it. And then that way we can make upward adjustments, for quality.
Yeah, because we use a lot of foam. And you can't see it once our house is complete. The time you're coming up there.
Right.
But where we have problems is on interim financing primarily. We're trying to get the money to build a house, and we go in, and there's certain levels of foam, or if you're going to use a non-vented attic, which you go in and you spray up on the rafters underneath the decking there. You don't use a radiant barrier, but you're using a lot of foam. And usually when those kind of packages on, say, a 2,500 square foot house are going to run probably about $12,000, $13,000 just to insulate it. Whereas I could go in and insulate it with batting and insulate it to code for about $2,000.
Right.
And so, you got about a $10,000 spread in there that we're looking for to get the money to build the house. The customer wants the house. Now, he's going to save probably 50% a month on his electric bill, which over time, over 4 or 5 years, will actually pay for the foam. And then everything he makes over that, after the years he's got his payback, it goes in the bank.
Right.
And but will y'all give that much difference in, like I say, if I went with non-vented attic and did the foam insulation versus just conventional insulating? Can we actually get that kind of money out of it?
More likely than not, and I'll tell you the reason why. It seems like it's a big secret between a lot of builders that they want, and I've had materials lists, what I call specs, on a paper napkin, and that doesn't tell me a whole lot. Tell me what you're doing. Tell me so I can compare to the other guy and see if we don't get an upward adjustment for quality on your homes, because obviously your homes is going to be better. It's going to last longer, and some of the builders build to. Some of them aren't even registered to the TRCC, and that gives you a little telltale sign.
Right. Well, those kind of builders are going to probably come to an end with $1,000 a day fine if they catch them, because that's what it's going to cost them.
Right.
And like I promote on my show every week, make sure your builder's registered. And the way you check that out is go, like I said, to www.masterbuildershow.com and click on TRCC. And if he's registered in the state of Texas, he will be on the Texas Residential Construction Commission's list.
Right.
And you can also find out if he's got any complaints against him, or he's got any problems filed against him. And all those have to be resolved. Leon, you're sitting over there awful quiet. You got anything to say?
Oh, no, this is all news to me. This is very interesting.
Well, one of our main concerns is when we're designing houses and we've got a client and he wants to go green, can he get the money to build that house? And if I've had some appraisers will go out there and they'll just appraise it straight across the board. He's got tile, he's got brick on the outside, he's got composition roofing. He does have cabinets, and he's got granite countertops, and it's pretty well based on square footage. And then I've had people like Mike come in and actually give you credit for everything that you put in a house, and that makes a big, big difference when you're trying to go in and get the money to build it, because most likely you're going to get about 80% of what it's appraised, and you've got to be able to build it for that. And
well, my experience with this sort of thing goes back quite a few years. About 30 years ago, my dad and I built about 40 houses over in Arlington, over close to the lake. And in those days, it was pretty standard. We didn't have these green issues were not even thought of. And by green, I think we all know that we mean environmentally friendly construction, that sort of thing. The term green is tossed about so much now that some people may know what it means, some people may not. But it all has to do with the ecological and environmental compatibility of the house, how it's going to save you money, how it's going to be easier on the environment. And the only way, some things that are going on these days when it comes to landscaping is that people will frequently tie in the cost of landscaping to the mortgage, and in that aspect, the landscaping would have to hold up to the kinds of standards that the bank would be willing to provide a loan on. And I assume that the interim, something I haven't been involved in a long time, is interim financing for the builder. that's something I suppose the bank would have to take a hard look at as well, just like insulation or anything else.
Do they actually? I wasn't even aware that landscaping was much more than curb appeal. I didn't know that the appraisal would look at a landscape design and add value.
Are you asking me?
Yeah.
Well, what you want to do is you certainly want to recognize the landscaping, especially if there's terraced walls. But the problem with landscaping and making an adjustment on it is you may come in and have 30 green thumbs. Okay? Beautiful. You sell it to someone, he comes in
with his brown thumb.
He's got a brown thumb. It's a dirty job. I mean, it's terrible. So consequently, from a HUD point of view and a VA point of view, which I do HUD, VA, conventional, everything, you want to be real careful about giving that landscape value, because it can change with your next user. Now, it's these people's qualifications. It's going to probably be gorgeous. But I come in there, it's going to look like, John Q., Arizona desert. And so is there value in that? I don't think so.
Well, my main business is trees rather than sprinklers and flowers and things like that. So when it comes to trees, if they're established in the landscape, they weren't planted 2 months before or 6 months before. Right. Actually, when it does come to planting trees or any other plant, especially trees, you're going to need to give it 2 good growing seasons of supplemental irrigation so that that tree doesn't go into stress and die. But once trees are established, especially if they are native or well adapted to this area, once they get past that establishment period, they'll grow just fine on their own. But the only thing that that a homeowner would have to do is really the best thing to do for a tree once it's established is nothing unless it has a broken branch.
Pray for rain.
And pray for rain, But really, when it comes to trees, and that's where the major money is in a landscaping situation, you really don't have to be too worried about them.
That seems to fall into the same thing that Mike was saying, though, that you can't really add value for anything except hardscape. For the stone walls, for an established tree, we've already agreed was added hard value. But there was nothing else more tentative that added value.
The smaller plants in a landscape, depending upon the orientation of the buyer, whether they put a high value on it or not, frequently goes the way of the drapes and the carpet. They don't like this kind of plant or that kind of plant because they want an English garden rather than a formal garden, or all those sorts of things. But the trees are an asset that you really just leave alone. You don't come in there and change the flowers out because you don't like petunias, but trees you leave alone.
We've got a brother-in-law that does that, though. He comes in, every time they move, they just rip everything out and redo it. Mike, what adds the most, or what it has the most weight when you're making an appraisal in a house? I mean, when you go out there and look at it, what really gives the house the most value as far as if you were doing remodeling or anything and getting it ready to sell? What can they do to make the house its optimum value?
Are you talking about something that would be proposed, or are you talking about what's there?
Well, just say they were going to go in and remodel, and they're thinking about buying another house or building a home. Okay. What improvements can they make?
Where do you put your money?
Where do you put your money to get the most return as far as value?
We have a national remodeling cost and recovery, and it's quite lengthy, but we've got percentages of recovery from 2-story additions to major kitchen remodels to bath remodel. And basically, if you've got a 1950s house, what you want to do, that's a chronological age. You want to make an effective age. You can make a 50s house age a 1999 age by changing the effective ages by condition. You go in, you rip out your pink ceramic tile, and nothing wrong with that. Pink's not a favorite. I mean, it's a favorite. Whatever.
To somebody.
Yeah,
but,
don't.
You're going to remodel that. I can give you some quick figures, like if you're doing a garage conversion, you got to be careful. If is your neighborhood set up for what we call a super adequacy, if the maximum square footage in your addition is 14,000 or 1,400 square feet and you increase it to 26, that's a super adequacy. You're overbuilt. You'll get no return. Very, very little. You've overbuilt. Basically, that's a common term for that. But like if you're doing a minor kitchen remodel, average cost roughly $8,507, return about 94%. If you're doing an attic bathroom and you're really changing, if you're doing windows, it's all pretty high. If you're doing something like a pool, the pool is going to bring you, depends upon the pool, 40, 50%, maybe less. Depends upon the age, the depreciation, the gunite, etc.
Right. Okay, looks like we got to take another break. We'll be back here in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
YourCircleOfWealth.com. A recent study by one of the world's largest financial institutions estimates that over 90% of baby boomers will not retire financially independent. We have prepared a financial report entitled Your Circle of Wealth. Learn how changing the way you manage your money can dramatically increase your wealth. To get a copy, you may go to www.yourcircleofwealth.com and enter the passcode Gibson, Gibson. That's yourcircleofwealth.com.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guests today are Mike Milner, Leon Campbell, his wife Joan, and my wife Jean Gibson.
You messed up my name.
Yeah, I know. I can't remember half the time.
Hard
you
to
know.
do.
That nasty.
Oh, what's her name?
Yeah, what's her name?
The old girl.
Anyway, we're talking about appraising your home today. And when we left on break, we were talking about what gives the most value. And Mike had a bunch of good information that he was telling me during the break that we need to talk about. And that we were talking about what is considered living area. And my wife asked him what the measurements or how the measurements were taken. And what they do is the exterior, they take the outside measurements and then subtract any porches, garages, or anything else. And what Mike was saying, that if you had a breezeway that went to like a game room that was air conditioned, that would not be considered part of the living area because it's not part of the main body of the house, and it's separate of that. What else? You had a bunch of stuff that you wanted to kind of go through here. A lot of people want to know as soon as we come out to the property. I had a fellow yesterday. I looked at his property. I was walking out the door. Well, how much is it worth? I don't know. Right.
I have to go through a process. I have to do an inside inspection. I have to do a neighborhood analysis. I have to go back and compare comparable sales. We have to make sales grid adjustments for differences in location and condition, square footage wise. One may have a high-vac system, one may not. One may have a pool, one may not. So it's hard, and a lot of owners just think that, and I understand that. They just think that you come out, well, you can tell me what it's worth. Well, we're not operating under a CMA or a broker's opinion of price, or just if I tell someone like yesterday that your home is worth $50,000. I've committed an appraisal, and I have to have backup in my files supporting that. Or he could, if he wanted to. He could come after me and said, you said it was worth $50,000. So we have to be real careful. And a lot of times we're under a lot of pressure. So, well, I need to know the value before you leave, because if I make this deal work, I don't know the value. I have a good idea. But if I tell him, then I've opened myself up for a keg of worms in saying he's going to remember what he's going to remember. And you said it was worth this much.
Well, it comes the same thing with builders when they're saying, well, how much does it cost per square foot to build a house? And that's one of my pet peeves also, because I don't know. It's a new house. Are you going to build a Volkswagen? Are you going to build a Rolls Royce? Are you going to build Maserati? I mean, what are you going to do? What are you going to do with this vehicle? And I guess price per square foot is actually for resale value only. And you're pulling comparables to resell your house, and so you're going to have to stay pretty well close to whatever the market bears. But when it comes actually to building a custom home, it all depends on what you put in it. It's all skewed. I have a lot of realtors, and I are one, but they will say, every home in this, McDavid Estates or this or this or that, well, they're getting X number of dollars a square foot. Well, that's not true. It's all skewed, because one may have 40 garages, one may have 2 pools, one may have 5,000 square feet, which costs less to build than a 2,000 square foot home. And so consequently, that skews the whole process per square foot. So you just can't blanket say, in this neighborhood, you get $50 a square foot, because everything changes. They may have vinyl flooring throughout, and you may have travertine. You may have the most expensive tile there is. You may have $400 a yard carpet. So consequently, your price per square foot is going to go up. And so you have to be careful like that. You just can't say, X number of neighborhoods get this much per square foot. Well, a lot of realtors tend to do that, though.
And that's okay. They do a CMA, and they say then they'll take an average, and average basically is a dirty word in appraising. You'll get a median price, or you'll do a weighted analysis on the most comparable sale. The most number one may have sold at $100,000, and we'll give it 80% value, and the remainder 2 will get the difference. There's all kinds of mathematically ways that you can come up with it, but the most predominant that Fannie Mae, Ginnie Mae, Freddie Mae, FHA, VA will accept is one, and that's the sales comparison approach.
Is there recourse, is what I want to know. If you tell me that if this is my $100,000 house, you come back with appraisal that says it's only worth $70,000. Can I challenge your appraisal? Can I have a redo? Can I amend the appraisal somehow?
Well,
you're driving a lot of issues with that $30,000 difference.
You can't. What you can do is say to your lender, if it's going through your lender, look, I disagree, and what I want to do is a reconsideration of value, and I welcome it, because I'm not perfect. So you come at me and you said, Mike, did you realize that I just spent $40,000 on upgrades and Gen Airs and all of these sort of things, and I may have missed something? Or my standing quote is, give me better sales and I'll give you a different value. I may have missed the most, and of course, Texas is a non-disclosure state. So if you sell your house, no one has to know anything about it, especially CAD. You
Who's
don't
CAD?
Want them to, Central Appraisal District. You don't want them to know that, okay? Because it's a personal thing between you and me and your banker. It's confidentiality. I can't tell anybody. But, if you think that it's worth more than that, tell me why. And we're open. We're not going to be ugly about it. We want to get you where you can go if we can prove it.
Well, I don't know that everybody realizes the first time you're building a house, the steps that you have to go through.
Yes, ma'am.
And so you have the blueprints appraised. So you're not looking at an actual house. You're looking at that, the drawing of the blueprints.
And that's the only thing we have to go by.
And the builder's wish list, the client's wish list doesn't add to that value.
Sure. We want to do what we call a brag list.
Okay. So it's not reality yet, though. I want a Sub-Zero, and I end up buying something used.
If we don't have that subcerebral information, you just lost some bucks.
Serious money. Okay.
Serious money.
And then that appraisal is what is submitted to the bank,
Yes, sir.
generally for an 80% loan.
Well, yeah, you can get
Generally.
you can get a 100% loan. But typically,
Well, I
you
thought
get
they
that-
had gone away with the credit crunch. I mean, that's
well,
what caused the credit crunch.
They're still doing
Are
100%,
they?
but if you want to remove that PMI, get an ADLTV. Okay, that's the best one.
That was foreign language. If I want to do
Loan
Loan
to
to
what?
value.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Right.
And then interim financing is then based on that appraisal?
It's based on the percentage of the appraisal value now. As far as builders are concerned, stuff, pretty well, ours are pretty well set on 80% of appraised value.
Right. So if I have an appraised value, but I want to add things to the house,
Mm-hmm.
then that's cash that will be considered after for a mortgage. If we didn't appraise the sub-zero and I decide that that's what I really want, and it's added after the original appraisal, after the construction has begun.
We do a change order basically and tell us what you've added, and then it'll all be subject to a final inspection. That's there.
Ta-da! There it goes.
We've had them come back in, after the house was completed, and we've added certain things to it and made upgrades in appliances and electrical fixtures
Everybody
and all that
seems
stuff.
to do that.
Well, you give them a budget, and they think, well, okay, it's a good deal, and then get down there to the fixture place, and they say, well, that particular faucet I don't like for the kitchen sink, and I want one of those $500 jobs. And then we had one lady spent $13,000 on her master shower with all her spray heads.
Oh,
and
it's
rain heads
wonderful.
And,
I bet it
I
was.
still want to go over there for a
Got
shower.
really clean that way.
Yeah, yeah.
it's like a car wash, you just go in there and self-service, you just walk through.
It's wonderful.
I'm going to stay out of this one.
Yeah. Oh, it's so nice.
It
Gorgeous.
was great, but I mean, stuff like that was just because they could afford it and
Sure.
they wanted it, and I doubted the appraisal would have come back, $13,000 on the shower.
Well, he hadn't been in the shower yet either.
That's true. That's true. He'd have to be there.
Yeah, okay. Well, I'm butting out again. Thank you.
No. That's and the other point that I wanted to check.
We got to take another break
Oh,
here. We'll be
okay.
back in a couple of minutes.
Did you know that some of the best home builders in the entire nation are right here in Parker County? Hello, everyone. This is Lynn Bearden, president of First National Bank of Weatherford. Our lenders believe your family deserves the best when it comes to your dream home. First National Bank is proud to support the Master Builder Show on QXFM. First National Bank in Weatherford has been building homes in Parker County since 1880. Member FDIC and an equal housing lender.
YourCircleOfWealth.com. A recent study by one of the world's largest financial institutions estimates that over 90% of baby boomers will not retire financially independent. We have prepared a financial report entitled Your Circle of Wealth. Learn how changing the way you manage your money can dramatically increase your wealth. To get a copy, you may go to www.yourcircleofwealth.com and enter the passcode Gibson, Gibson. That's yourcircleofwealth.com.
Fort Worth Lighting, serving the building professional in Parker, Wise, Palo Pinto, and surrounding counties. Services include planned takeoff, site walkthrough, and delivery. For an appointment with a Fort Worth Lighting consultant, the number is 817-597-6320, or the website is fortworthlighting.com. Again, it's 817-597-6320 for Fort Worth Lighting.
Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, 2401 Zion Hill Road, Weatherford, Texas, 682-429-2116. We specialize in homes to suit each and every individual that expects special attention. We help design, finance, and close on every home we build. We use green building techniques in all of our homes. You can contact Jim at masterbuildershow.com. Gibson Home Builders Incorporated, Weatherford, 682-429-2116. Welcome back to the Master Builder Show. I am your host, Jim Gibson. Today's show is sponsored by the First National Bank of Weatherford. My guest today is Mike Milner, and we've got Leon Campbell, his wife Joan, and my wife Jean Gibson. I got your name right that time.
Thank you.
All right.
Practice makes perfect.
Every once in a while I do something right in her eyes. But anyway, we've been talking about appraisals and I guess what affects the value of the homes with the appraisals. We're going to have to wrap up here pretty quick. Mike, do you have anything that you want to add as
Hot
far
buttons?
as hot buttons that people need to look or think about when they are building? Yeah.
You want to make sure that your property is functionally adequate. You want to make sure that you don't go through a private area to get to a public area. And I believe it or not, I've seen some builders' plans that are totally, totally wrong. And you all your bathrooms are upstairs. You have no guest bathrooms downstairs. You want that plan to be looked over by someone like Jim, your architect, your designer, and even an appraiser. I look at a lot of appraisals for builders and for bankers, and I'll tell them I had a doctor's 5,000 plus square foot home, and this home was pure quality. And no knocking against vinyl. Vinyl is fine, but this was almost $1 million property. He had vinyl flooring in here, and I went to the bank and I told him, I says, I want to tell you something. This is not commensurate with what's going on in this neighborhood. Right. So I'll tell you, I will appraise it, but you're going to be heard on this. You know, a lot of doctors have their taste in their pocketbook and not their clothes and what they do, you know. But so we try to recommend anything we see. And we're not experts on it, but we leave that to the builders and the engineers. But you can have definitely functional obsolescence, what we call obsolescence, that will definitely affect your value. Let the builder direct you. Let the builder advise you. It's your home. If you're paying cash, I don't care. Build it upside down. But if you're getting financing, that financing lender wants to know the builder's opinion, the appraiser's opinion, is support the collateral, and we're going to go by Fannie, Ginnie, FHA, Freddie, VA guidelines. And if there's something wrong functionally, I'm obligated to point that out because of one thing. What if it forecloses on and resell and it sits there on the market for 15 years? It's my fault.
Right.
And I want to protect it, everything I can. Okay.
Leon, got any last comments?
Well, I was just looking at my notes here, and I think that if you, one of these days, if you'll let me back on the show, we can talk some about some of the less obvious benefits of having trees. And there's quite a list of psychological benefits and the way that your children behave and the way you feel about life in general. It's just like the difference between going to let's see if I can think of some region without offending somebody, but say a very austere region of Texas as opposed to going to the Colorado mountains. Where do you feel the best? And so it's those kinds of things we can talk about and incorporate into the discussion of trees and the green thumb in general.
All right.
Wonderful.
You got anything else to say, Gene? You always got something to say. So
Isn't that rude? Well, actually.
Okay.
You and I are sitting down over the next couple of weeks, and we're kind of planning is too firm a word, but sketching out what we're going to have for programs, for speakers, for activities over the next year. We just need a flow sheet. What I would ask is that people call you, email you, beat on a drum, and make suggestions. If there's something that you'd like to
hear,
if there's a specific topic that's really near and dear and we've somehow missed it, I would like to know.
Contact me, Jim, at masterbuildershow.com, and we'll wrap it up for this week, and we'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you.
Thank you
for
very
coming.
much.
Thank you for having me.